the heretic's inverted view of annihilation. After Ananda and the whole assembly had heard the Buddha's words, their bodies and minds became calm and composed. They thought that, since the time without beginning, they had lost sight of their own minds by wrongly clinging to the shadows of their differentiated causal conditions, and that they had only now awakened to all this, like a hungry baby who had not suckled for some time and suddenly saw its loving mother. They brought their palms together to thank the Buddha and wished to hear his teaching on the dual states of reality and unreality, existence and non-existence, and mortality and immortality of body and mind. King Prasenajit then rose and said to the Buddha, "Before I received the Buddha's instruction, I met Kakuda Katyayana and Sajjaya Vairaputra, who both said that when the body died, in annihilation was called nirvana. Although I have now met the Buddha, I am still not clear about this. All those here who are still in the stream of transmigration wish to know how to realize that mind and prove that it is beyond birth and death." The Buddha said to King Prasenajit, "Great King, I now ask you about your body of flesh and blood. Is it permanent and indestructible like a diamond, or does it change and decay?" The king replied, "My body will decay and finally be destroyed." The Buddha asked, "Great King, you have not yet died. How do you know that your body will be destroyed?" The king replied, "World-honored one, though my impermanent, changing, and decaying body is not yet dead, I observe that it changes and decays without a moment's pause, and is bound to go out like a fire that gradually burns out and will be reduced to naught." The Buddha asked, "Yes, great king, you are old now, but how do you look compared to when you were a child?" The king replied, "World-honored one, when I was a child, my skin glowed, and when I grew up, I was full of vigor. But now I age and weaken. I grow thin, and my spirits are dull. My hair is white, and my face wrinkled, so that I know I shall not live much longer. There is no comparison between now and when I was full of vitality." The Buddha said, "Great king, your appearance should not decline." The king replied, "World-honored one, it has been changing all the time too imperceptibly for me to notice it. With the constant change of seasons, I have become what I am now. Why? Because when I was 20, though still young, I already looked older than when I was 10, while at 30 I was older still. As I am now 62, I am older than at 50, when I was stronger. World-honored one, I notice this imperceptible change in every decade, but when I look into it closely, I see that it has occurred not only yearly, monthly, and daily, but in each moment of thought. That is why I know that my body is destined to final destruction." The Buddha said, "Great king, you observe this ceaseless change and know that you will die. But do you know that when you do, there is that which is in your body and does not die?" The king brought his two palms together and said, "I really do not know." The Buddha continued, "I will now show you the self-nature which is beyond birth and death. Great king, how old were you when you first saw the Ganges?" The king replied, "When I was 3, my mother took me to worship the Deva Jiva. As we crossed the river, I knew it was the Ganges." The Buddha said, "Great king, as you just said, as days, months, and years succeeded one another, your body changed in every moment of thought. When you saw the Ganges at 3, was its water the same as it was when you were 13? The king replied, "It was the same when I was 3 and 13, and still is now that I am 62. The Buddha said, "As you now notice your white hair and wrinkled face, there must be many more wrinkles than when you were a child. Today, when you see the Ganges, do you notice that your seeing is old now, while it was young then? The king replied, It has always been the same, world-honored one. The Buddha said, Great king, though your face is wrinkled, the nature of the essence of your seeing is not. Therefore, that which is wrinkled changes, and that which is free from wrinkles is unchanging. The changing is subject to destruction, whereas the unchanging fundamentally is beyond birth and death. How can it be subject to your birth and death? Why do you bring out Muskari Gaslaputra's wrong teaching on total annihilation at the end of this life? Upon hearing this, the king realized that after death there will be no annihilation, but life again in another transmigration. He and the whole assembly were happy and enthusiastic at the teaching which they had never heard before.